So this is going to be kind of quick, but I want to describe how tightly God controls the universe and why I know that I'm dealing with God. So today my mom left the room and she was watching YouTube, and this documentary came on about this man with Down syndrome. And I had a student once, or a couple, that just people with Down syndrome have something godly about them. So I was watching, kind of writing an email and watching this at the same time, but not really paying attention. And then I noticed that this guy was in the pulpit, and he couldn't speak proper words. He couldn't use language. But apparently he loves to preach. So one of his family members takes him to the church and sits in the pew while he is allowed to preach at the pulpit. Anyway, time passed and the documentary's still going on, and all of a sudden I hear this song. And I'm like, what? It's a song by an Icelandic band called Sigur Rós. And I learned about them like 12 years ago when I had a friend that was from Iceland. And during that time, I ended up having to go to Iceland on my way to England because it was the least expensive ticket. And then years later, my brother went on a riding trip and just randomly chose Iceland to go to. And my grandfather was in a plane accident in World War II in Iceland that caused shell shock, or what we now call PTSD. And anyway, I heard this song that I had listened to probably over 1,000 times. And it was in this documentary about this man with Down syndrome who now has Alzheimer's. And his parents are getting too old to care for him. And I'm just like, this is so just out of God's playbook of suffering, but the rewards he has in store for this family. So anyway, I'm sitting here and he says, I'd really like to hear that Sigur Rós song. So we go to my music app and we put in Sigur Rós, and he takes my hand and picks a certain album. And I was looking to see if the song that was on that documentary was on that album, and I didn't see it. He said, keep scrolling down. And as I scrolled down, the last song kind of jarred my brain because I was like, wait, did I make a typo? And I look at the last song, and the name of it is Hey Satan. Ha Satan. Just like the video I made the other day, that God plays the adversary, or the devil's advocate, if you will. Imagine a world where there was no devil's advocate. Some of you younger kids won't know what that means. You'll figure it out. So a devil's advocate simply plays the other side, or gives the other perspective so that someone can see themselves or the situation clearly. So anyway, God plays the role of the adversary to make the universe work, and he calls that self Ha Satan, which Satan in Hebrew means adversary. So I go to the end, and I know right now there's going to be a bunch of people that say, oh, that's proof that she's talking to Satan. Well, you're wildly incorrect, because Satan, the little piece of It's having me think of SpongeBob SquarePants and the chum bucket. That little piece of chum cannot put hidden messages in Icelandic artists' albums without God's permission, because God is fully sovereign over all. And then he had me look at the time, and it was about 10 seconds shy of 11:11. So when you think, oh, did I say Sigur Rós makes up their own language? Sigur Rós is a band that, well, if you're American, you can't understand their Icelandic or their own language. But the lead singer of Sigur Rós just makes up his own language. And it turns out someone who can control people's mouths made up the language he sings in. I am so strange sometimes. See, I was trying to get away from that. Don't take this the wrong way. I love this. Someone said the other day, someone sent me an email and said that since I've started remaking videos, they've felt I'm a lot more normal than they did at first. She's more normal than, well, almost anyone. Shut up. So, anyway, when you think of what he had to do to make all these things converge, that I saw the video of the Down syndrome man, heard that song. So he had to inspire the movie makers to put that song into that documentary. He had to have it pop up on my YouTube or my mom's YouTube feed. He had to have me find it a minute before 11:11, which is one of his, fancy numbers. Like, all these things have to converge, and he does it. And he's done it for 2 years, and he does it all the time. Humans just consider it coincidence, or they just brush it off as not important. He told me the other day that, this was yesterday. He told me that he has to be very, 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 very careful to write the story so as that humans can't tell how tightly it's written. It is quite challenging to do. When you sit and think that through, that I just told you all the things that went into me finding that song at 11:11, written by an Icelandic. He's got a thing for Iceland. They believe in fairies, or I think they call them little people. They sometimes make monuments, they move roads so people won't bother these fairy areas. And it turns out God has a fairy dimension, and they sense it. They're not I haven't made the video on what God's doing with things like aliens and fairies and mermaids and all that fun stuff. I've said that God's behind it, but when you find out what he's actually doing, it's kind of cute. So anyway, he's got a thing for Iceland, and all these things converged. That's how tightly he does write the script. We just are completely unaware. Anyway, I thought someone might enjoy that. Love you all. Bye-bye.